Hello and welcome to the Weather Studio Live. We're broadcasting live from the Met Office. It's 1:05, a little bit later than normal. I'm Alex Deakin.
And I'm Aidan McGivern. We've had a few technical issues this morning. Apologies for being late. Another thing that is different, because of course we're changing our studio at the moment in the Met Office. You may have noticed some of the furniture has been rejigged. So at the moment we're making a few adjustments. Hopefully we'll have a new and improved studio.
Yes, very much looking forward to that very soon. A new home for our touchscreen.
But at the moment it's not a touch screen, it's a good old-fashioned screen.
Old school.
I just need to get a new cable, so we'll be popping to PC World afterwards. We're doing it the old-fashioned way today with the clicker.
But we can still take your questions, so please do keep sending them in. We are broadcasting live on YouTube, through Periscope and on Facebook as well. So wherever you're watching, even if you're watching after it's been live, you can still send us in your questions. We love to hear from you, love to answer them as well. Please give us the thumbs up, and if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channels, and then you'll never miss one. And you'll get to know, of course, when we've got our new studios all set up in the coming weeks. But what's coming up in today's programme?
Plenty to talk about. Of course, it's turning wetter over the next few days. Most places will see some rain. How much rain will we get? Where and when will the rain hit? And how long will it last? We'll be looking in detail at that.
Welcome rain in places, of course. And, well, there may be signs of a change beyond that. Maybe we'll have a look at that, particularly as we go into the weekend. But the weekend just gone, there was plenty going on this weekend, wasn't there? It was a bank holiday, of course. It wasn't a particularly warm bank holiday, and there was some action in the skies overhead as well, wasn't there?
There was some action in my house. We were potty training a 2-year-old. That made it busy enough. But yeah, weather action, certainly.
Too much information.
Almost pressed the screen
Almost pressed
there.
the screen there, back to the clicker.
Got the old
Don't forget
clicker.
the clicker.
Yeah, there was lots going on at the weekend, and some quite dramatic imagery here from Blackpool early Sunday morning. There was a lot of heavy showers about over the weekend, and this formed in association with one of the heavy downpours. It is, of course, a funnel cloud. That's the name given to something that looks like a tornado but hasn't touched the ground. So this funnel that comes down from the cloud, and yeah, this was near Blackpool.
Steve Cotton, let's assume Steve wasn't actually driving at the time, because that would have been dangerous. But yes, a funnel cloud coming down from it's a funnel cloud until it touches the ground, and then it becomes a tornado. Fascinating. Really good image of that one there.
Not as dramatic as this. Actual tornado in Romania about a week or so ago. Isn't that incredible? Another one shot through car windscreen, but still, it just looks like a beast. And there was actually quite a lot of photos and videos taken of this. Here's one video of that
You see
tornado.
the flash of lightning behind it as well from the thunderstorm. It's absolutely incredible. The colour, and the colour's just created by mud just being spun up through the tornado. That's
the height it goes
water
up to.
vapour there, and you can see that that's just being sucked up off the ground. Romania, close to the border with Bulgaria. This was right at the end of April, I think. Yeah, amazing, it's terrifying.
Yeah, and that was quite a destructive tornado. It ripped a few roofs off houses, and it turned over a bus. People were injured. Thankfully, no fatalities. But yeah, really powerful system there. Another really powerful global storm. Of course, we talked about this last week. It was extremely severe tropical cyclone Phony. It hit India over the last week or so, and you can see the track. This is from NASA, the track of the storm as it moved over the sea and hit India and then
As
Bangladesh. But yeah, it was equivalent to a Category 4.
As it hit, close to a Category 3, 4 as it hit. It was a Category 3, and it intensified, didn't it? It became a Category 4 temporarily, and then hit as a 3/4. Difficult to tell exactly at this stage. But look at that storm. You can see the eye of the storm. The third really quite devastating tropical cyclone in the Indian Ocean so far this year. It's been pretty much one a month. The last two, of course, hitting Mozambique. There's some footage. Shame we haven't got the audio on this, because this is really powerful. You can just hear the winds whistling through. Some footage on a bridge in India as the cyclone itself moved through. Absolutely terrifying as the winds just whipped through. The gusting winds at well over 150 miles an hour, isn't it, as that storm hit the coastline. A few fatalities, but not as many as there could have been because of that track, and actually because it was pretty well forecast, and the Indian authorities are very good at getting people to evacuate. So actually a lot of lives were saved by the heads up, and the fact that we knew it was coming 3 or 4 days ahead, and so people were able to evacuate. So yes, there were some fatalities, but it could have been an awful lot worse because that was a very powerful
really
storm.
low considering the power of the storm and the densely populated
areas that it hit.
Yeah.
Yes. The worst one to hit, or the most powerful storm to hit the Indian subcontinent for 5 years. So it was a pretty big beast.
It's pre-monsoon season in the Indian area at the moment, and of course temperatures are rising. Someone asked a question last week: where's the hottest place on the planet right now? We didn't know the answer off the top of our heads.
What? You don't know that information off the top of your head? That's outrageous.
But this is right now. This is the temperature across the world right now. 5-degree contours. Anything below blue there is below 0, and so you can. There's no key on there, but you can work out that these are the 20s into the 30s across Africa, India, Pakistan. So there's some proper heat building there across North Africa now that we're heading into the Northern Hemisphere summer, into the Middle East, India, Pakistan. Where do you think right now is the hottest place on the planet?
Well, I was in Death Valley in May a few years ago, and it was pretty hot. Temperatures in the mid 40s, as I recall. But like you said, I think it's going to be the pre-monsoon, because ahead of the monsoon, which arrives in southern India the 1st of June, is the standard date. Obviously, it varies each year. So we're building up to the monsoon across India, and ahead of that, well, the heat just builds and builds and builds, doesn't it? So it's this time of year. You've got to be looking at somewhere across India, maybe into Pakistan, northern India, I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
45 degrees.
While we're here, where do you think's the coldest place in the world right now?
In the world right now, Antarctica. You're talking
that's
about
an easy one. That's an easy one, isn't it?
Night time, or day, or the day min, or the maximum, the lowest maximum.
The lowest temperature, right? So yeah. Antarctica, minus 73.
Minus 73.
Where do you think, though, is the coldest place in the Northern Hemisphere? That's a bit more
Arctic.
Tricky. Okay. That's it. That's quite easy, isn't it? That's quite obvious. These are the places where it's hottest and coldest. Antarctica's the coldest place right now, but that's the coldest place in the Northern Hemisphere.
It's the peak
temperature
of the cold.
of the last 24 hours, and this is the hottest. Pakistan.
48.1 hours. I wasn't far off.
That's
said
2040s.
Okay, but that was a question from last week. But do keep sending your questions in.
We've had a few questions already. Speaking of temperatures, someone asked. Simon Jenkins asked, how unusual is it to get frosts in May? Not that unusual. You normally get a couple each year.
What has been unusual is the extent and just how below freezing it's been. It's been sort of -3, -4, even -5, -6.2 last night in Scotland. That is pretty low for this time of year. Frosts in May, not that unusual. It's quite noteworthy just in terms of people often put out bedding plants this time of year, and often frosts kill delicate plants, so that's why often weather forecasts talk about it a lot, to give people notice so they can protect their plants, because it can happen. It does happen reasonably frequently, but the extent of the cold over the course of the weekend was fairly unusual. Are we going to get any more named storms? Andrew Baldock asks on YouTube. That's a good question, Andrew. No signs of anything in particular at the moment for the next week or so. It would be quite late at this time, but then we had one in the summer last year, didn't we? In June last year. So they can continue to happen, but no signs at the moment. Is it going to stop snowing in Shetland anytime soon? Ian Derbyshire on Facebook. Thanks for your question, Ian. You have had a lot of wintry weather, and although other parts of the UK are starting to warm up, Shetland's not so much, certainly for the next 2 or 3 days. So any showers you continue to see may well still be of sleet, of hail for the next couple of days. But there are signs at the end of the week that, yes, even in Shetland, it will start to get a little bit warmer. Perhaps we'll have more on that in a moment.
Right, yeah, and the weather, of course, at the moment is pretty. Touch the screen again there. Habit. It is pretty cold. Yeah. It's not going to be a touching show, this one.
No, it's not. It's all about the clicker.
So a lot of cloud cover. This is the satellite at the moment. A lot of cloud cover across the UK. But if you look just to the left of your screen there, just behind Mr. Deacon, you can see this swirl waiting to come in. That is Wednesday's weather, a low pressure in the Atlantic, and of course the jet stream to blame. Now the jet stream's been fairly absent in terms of its track across the Atlantic and bringing low pressure systems our way for a while. It's been bringing colder air from the north predominantly over the bank holiday weekend, but this streak of the jet stream here. That's a proper breeding ground over the next few days.
We're in a cold air right at the moment. 2 lows and 2 highs. It's a beautiful cold.
Light winds.
But this is quite a mature system. We saw on the satellite picture the clouds all wound around it already. That's showing us that actually the low pressure itself is quite a few days old. So as it moves across the UK, it's actually tending to weaken a little bit. It's not as intense. It's gone through its deepening phase thanks to the jet, and naturally as it approaches the UK, it won't be as intense. It's still going to bring us a wet and windy spell through Wednesday, but it won't be as intense as it is now. It's when the jet stream really picks it up and intensifies it as it's crossing the UK. That's more likely when you get a named storm with the really powerful winds.
Yeah, and it becomes detached from the jet stream there. It moves off Thursday night into Friday, but then another one comes along again, caught up by the jet stream. This one not as deep.
Well, the jet stream's not as deep. You haven't got the pink there. You haven't really got the intensity of the jet streaks as well. Yeah. So this one won't. There's a bit of uncertainty about the extent of that. It could be a bit further north, it could be further south. And it actually might get wound up. It does depend on how it really interacts with the jet stream. At the moment, it just looks like we'll see a spell of rain coming in across the south on Friday.
The jet stream, of course, that when it's lying at this relatively low latitude there, it brings us these weather systems. It brings them in from the south, so it's southern parts of Britain that often get the brunt of the rainfall, although as they clear away, you can get it into northeast Britain. More on that in a moment. One other thing that a low latitude jet stream does is it keeps us on the cold side. So we talked about how cold it's been. Another chilly night expected tonight. Not across England, Wales, Northern Ireland. Fairly typical mid to high single figures there to wake up to because of the cloud and the increasing wind. But yeah, -5 possible, far north of Scotland.
Yeah, -6.2 last night. And the record for May for Scotland is -7.7. So we weren't far, only 1.5 degrees off last night. And tonight, just the far north of Scotland, through some sheltered glens, expecting something like -5. So again, not massively away from the May record, which is -7.7. But yeah, big contrasts, much milder in the south because we're seeing that wet and windy weather arrive. The cloud and the rain will keep the temperatures up.
And someone spoke about snow in Shetland. There's also snow over the mountains of Scotland. You can see it there. This is this afternoon's weather. All that cloud cover, showers across central areas, snow showers over the mountains of Scotland. A few showers dotted about elsewhere. Some sunshine in the far south. Feeling pleasant in that sunshine because we're in that coal area between lows and highs and light winds. But our attention is on this thing coming in. That's going to reach us through this evening, really. That's just going to bring
the rain gets into southwest England this evening, doesn't it? And then it comes this line of heavier rain. You can see that's the weather front which pushes its way in. So hey, you might get woken up by the rain overnight. Could be pretty heavy for a time through Wales. It's moving through. It's not expected to cause too many issues because it does move here, but then it does tend to linger across other parts of the UK. As we go through Wednesday across the northeast of England.
Wednesday morning, 8 a.m, some sunshine there, quite chilly, the north of Scotland. Sunshine also, after that rain clears through, in the southwest. So that's good news for my cycle to work. But
you're going to cycle in tomorrow?
Well, look, there's a gap.
Oh, just have to dodge those showers. Home in the afternoon.
Yeah, worry about that when it happens. This swathe of wet weather, though, that's going to make it unpleasant in the morning. And counting through the day there, that sticks around. Northern England, especially southeast Scotland, just seeing persistent rainfall and a strong wind coming in from the North Sea. A lot of cloud cover.
It's going to rain all day over the Cheviots. So we could see 40, 50 millimetres of rain, a couple of inches, maybe even a bit more than that. But here you've got the spots, the heavy showers. These are going to be thundery showers. They'll be more hit and miss. This is a classic example of when people talk about the difference between rain and shower. So this is a band of rain from a weather front, and then we've got the showers down here. So everywhere under that zone is going to be damp. But here you'll be somewhat hit and miss with the thunderstorms. So they could be pretty lively through the afternoon. So some places here will get torrential rain, and then 5 miles away it'll be nice and sunny, whereas everywhere under here is just glum and damp.
And you can see the difference that makes with the temperatures, 7 or 8 under the rain in the north, and where the sun breaks through, get some strong sunshine coming out, 16, 17 degrees.
It's going to feel so much different compared to the weekend, isn't it? Yeah. Compared to, we were struggling to get into the teens at the weekend at 16, 17, but that is going to feel grim. Edinburgh, Dundee, all the way down to Newcastle, further south to Bridlington, is going to feel cold. Temperatures just 7 or 8 degrees in mid-May, or maybe early May still, but with the wind off the sea as well, because the sea is so chilly still at this time of year, that is going to feel pretty bleak.
Yeah, very unpleasant.
But we may see signs of things changing. But not immediately.
No, because that rain is sticking around, not just through tomorrow into tomorrow night, into the start of Thursday. You can see it just spiralling around this low.
And that again goes back to the jet stream, because it's kind of disengaged from the jet stream. If it was still engaged with the jet stream, it would push it on. But because the jet stream's gone to the south, the low just doesn't move very far. It just kind of sits across the UK and takes a while to clear.
Eventually, this is around the middle of Thursday, it does become more showery, and you can see these speckled showers most other parts of the country as well. So it's rain, then showers, and then, well, more rain. Again, this is Friday's low. Doesn't look like much.
Doesn't,
as we end Thursday. It doesn't deepen as it would if it was properly engaged with the jet stream.
Some of the computer models deepen it. Some
do.
Depends on that exact engagement with the jet stream. But yeah, it's going to bring some rain to the south, it looks like.
Probably later Friday, but again, that all depends on the exact track and depth of that low and how much the jet stream interacts with it. So Friday starts off with a few showers and probably ends up fairly wet across southern parts of Britain. Certainly one to watch for the timing and the track of that rainfall, how wet it will be and when it will set in. But some good news on the way after that rainfall. Hopefully. Have there been any more?
Yes, lots of questions coming in. Thank you for those. Do keep them coming in. We are trying to answer as many as we can. Just going back to the cyclones, Donald Barron on YouTube, why have there been so many strong Indian Ocean cyclones? One of the reasons is, particularly for that one that we saw in India, Phony, last week, the sea surface temperatures really warm, 29, 30 degrees in that northern portion of the Indian Ocean. That's why that storm was able to maintain its intensity, because cyclones feed off the warm water. That's where they get their energy from. And crucially also the wind shear was quite light in that area. Now wind shear is the change of winds as you go up to the atmosphere, and if you get big changes, so if the winds at lower atmosphere is in a different direction and strong, blowing at different directions higher up, then that tends to blow the storms apart. But when the wind shear is little, then the winds are all pretty similar, and you don't get that blowing apart, and that helps to maintain the tropical cyclone. So that is one of the reasons why, in particular, Phony maintained its strength. And it was one of the reasons why in 2017 the hurricane season was so active, because the sea surface temperatures were above average, and also, again, you had that low wind shear. Andrew Ball also, how do cyclones develop? Well, there's some videos about that on our sister channel, on our YouTube sister channel, Learn About Weather. So once this is finished, you can go and check that out. And yeah, there's lots of things about there about hurricanes and cyclones, and more questions coming in. Why are they called different things? It's just a naming thing. Hurricanes are the same as cyclones, which are the same as typhoons. It just depends which ocean they're in as to why they're given different names.
Graham Palmer, Facebook. Is there a Spanish plume coming at the end of the month? Spanish plume is where you get essentially a plume of humid, unstable air moving up from the Spanish plateau, and that can not only give us some quite high temperatures, but also set off some thundery weather. And we do often get it, we normally get it at least once or twice during the summer, so you wouldn't rule it out for the end of May, and we'll be talking about how the weather could be changing through this weekend, and of course, that's what you'd need, because we're at the moment in the opposite of a Spanish plume type.
Yeah, I think if you search them out off his website, there's a bit of an explainer there about what exactly a Spanish plume is. It's something you kind of learn in weather school, isn't it? It's like, oh, if all these things come together, then it's a Spanish plume. But in reality, you never actually quite get a classic. You never get a classic Spanish plume. Everything coming together. But yes, it's warm air coming up from the Spanish plateau, a trough out in the Atlantic, and that tends to bring some warmth. But the key thing about a Spanish plume is that it ends with a bang, and that's where you get the thunderstorms across the UK.
Probably why you get that famous description of the UK summer, three fine days and then a thunderstorm, because when you get hot weather in this country, it's from southerly winds, but southerly winds means that you've probably got low pressure out to the west that's just waiting to come in. So inevitably it will break down at some point.
You can almost press the screen again.
Next week I'll be looking for my clicker. There won't be any need.
Right, so what is happening beyond? We've seen this week the jet streams to the south. We're on the cold side. It's bringing low pressure. But look what happens. We're now going through the weekend. The jet stream is buckling down across the Atlantic, spreading to the north. We are on the southern side come Sunday, and high pressure.
High pressure.
So complete opposite. High pressure is building in. So it looks like there'll be a transition through the weekend.
Yeah, Saturday's still a showery day, so some heavy downpours about on Saturday, but it's really into Sunday that most places will end up drier and start to feel a bit warmer. We're building that high in with cold air initially. You can see these blues there. But
so frost, still frost over the week, Friday night,
on a
Saturday
Sunday
night,
morning
and still
as well.
Sunday morning. Yeah, could still be some frost around.
So not an immediate heat wave, but there are signs that the weather will warm up as it settles down into the end of the weekend and the start of next week. You can see this warmth being drawn.
If you just looked
at
this chart with a low, you'd think that low was coming in and stuff, but because we'd seen the jet stream is going like that, that low is not going to move in this way. It's going to be taken up there by the jet stream. And actually, this high looks like sticking around. It's kind of like a blocking high, and well, there's the warm air. There's kind of like a plume of warm air coming up from Spain. Is that going to approach?
Well, let's take a look. This sexy-looking table is just sums up our weather. Sums up our weather perfectly for next week.
This is going to need a bit of explaining.
Takes some explaining, however, so bear with me. This is the day that the weather is valid for, so this is the forecast into next week.
So
that's
because
next
you can't
Monday.
read it, yeah, that starts on Tuesday, that's next Monday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday. And you'll see red colours underneath. Now, red means in this table means... No, it means high pressure. So almost hot.
The two things are not always the same.
Yeah. So red's for high, blue for low pressure, and these are the. This is a summary of all of the different computer models, basically. So the more agreement they have with each other that you've got high pressure or low pressure, the stronger these blues and reds. And these are the forecasts going back in time.
So this is yesterday's forecast. This is the latest forecast. This was midday yesterday. We'll go back to this was Saturday's forecast. So that's why they kind of fall off at the end, because they only go out to a certain number of days ahead.
It's good for seeing how reliable the signals are.
Yes.
And how many of the computer models and how far back in time they've been predicting high pressure to build in. And you can see there, this weekend is that blue to red changeover, where it goes from low pressure to high pressure, really strong agreement in the last week or so, and with all of the different computer models that we go to high pressure, and it stays red Monday, Tuesday, 100%. Wednesday.
You can't read the numbers. The numbers are not that important, but 100% is pretty unusual for that far ahead. So you can just see, yes, we're expecting low pressure to be in control of our weather, and then a switchover day is Saturday, and then for certainly the early part of next week, high pressure will be building in across the UK, which usually means dry weather and fine weather. Question marks about the exact position of the high and where our winds are coming from as the temperatures, but it does look at this stage as if we will get some warmer air coming in early next week.
And because you've enjoyed that so much, we have...
Oh, I think I've got more. Well, of course, if you watch our 10-day trend video, which we do every Wednesday, which goes out on YouTube and Facebook, you'll be familiar with that kind of graph and this kind of graph. But for those of you who haven't watched, what's this?
This is the temperature trend. Now, the reds are daytime temperatures and the blues are nighttime temperatures. And again, we're going forward in time. That's the forecast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. And the red lines and the blue lines are the average. So red line there is the average for a central part of the UK this time of year. And through the next few days, you can see these red blocks are lower than the red lines, so lower than average temperatures. Then they rise, they go above average into next week. The blocks get bigger. Those are essentially the error bars. So the
uncertainty. The bigger the block, the greater the uncertainty.
Yeah, but even the bottom of that error bar is touching the average line for next week. So even if that happens, we're still above average, and
that's not huge actually for this kind of time period as well. For a week ahead, that's not a huge uncertainty.
So what you're looking for there is the trend. It's going from below average next few days for most of the UK, and then it's going above average into next week, which is what you'd expect when you've got a strong high pressure in charge at this time of year.
So yes, if you're after fine, dry weather, good news. If you're after rain, good news as well, because they're all going to get some over the next couple of days. So yeah, plenty going on with the weather over the next week or so. Make sure you stay up to date with the very latest. As I said, our 10-day trend video will be out tomorrow, featuring more graphics like that. That'll be on, it's me doing it tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah. YouTube and Facebook tomorrow afternoon. We're also, as we speak, Claire Nazir is recording a podcast somewhere else in the building. which will be going out, I think, in a couple of weeks. And in that, we've got a couple of meteorologists from here who are going out to America and looking at the tornado season in particular, taking some of our high resolution models and actually forecasting tornadoes out in Tornado Alley over the next couple of weeks. So it's going to be really fascinating to hear what they say and what they're going to do out there. So that'll be on the podcast in a couple of weeks. Hopefully when they come back, they'll be able to tell us more about it as well. So that's the Mostly Weather podcast. The Weather Snap podcast is also being recorded the next couple of days. That'll go out on Thursday. But yeah, you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channels, more on cyclones, hurricanes there, and of course also on Snapchat and Instagram.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
We've had lots of questions. Yeah. What's the wind direction and strength likely to be at the weekend in the southeast, please? I don't know if that's from the same person that asked about thermals for gliding, but yeah, the southeast over the weekend.
Should be getting lighter Monday. It depends on the position of that low. So yeah, I'd say a lot of uncertainty about Saturday because of that low and what time it clears away. But certainly by Sunday, the wind should be pretty light, and probably by the end of Sunday coming up from the south.
John Young, Facebook. As an astronomer, why is it always cloudy as meteor showers peak? Well, the answer to that, John, is that it's just always cloudy. You live in the UK, you're unlucky.
I'm sure there's a law about that. I did astrophysics at university, and every time we had to go out to look at use the telescope, it was always cloudy. It was always. That kind of piqued my interest in meteorology, I think, actually. Yeah, it's always tricky, but. Stick with it. I'm sure it'll be worth it. I'm sure you get some breaks in the cloud at some point. Danny Spring, is that sexy looking chart on the Met Office website, that one? I don't think it is available widely on the website, but if you're interested, I say the 10-day trend is where we can tend to look at those kind of graphics, the nitty gritty. So if that's your thing, Danny, come and join us on the 10-day trend, because that's the kind of level we go into.
It's guaranteed sexy graphics on the 10-day trend, isn't it? To cloud formations, from Victoria Waller on Facebook, to cloud formations, for example, cumulo or cirrus, give an insight as to what the weather will be like.
That's a great question, Victoria.
Yeah. Well, here's a rule of thumb. If you get cumulus clouds and cirrus clouds in the sky at the same time, so the cumulus are the fair weather, light and fluffy ones, the cirrus are the wispy ones that are much higher up. If you see both of those at the same time, it probably won't rain anytime soon.
Oh, that's good knowledge. Good knowledge. Yeah, the clouds do tell you an awful lot about what's going on. It's how in the olden days, people used to tell the weather. Cirrus is often a sign of a weather front approaching in the distance, and it helps ties in with that old red sky at night, shepherd's delight. So it's how farmers and shepherds used to tell the weather initially looking at the clouds. You can tell an awful lot from the clouds. And again, there's more information on that on the Met Office website or on our sister channel, Learn About Weather on YouTube. But that's a fascinating, good question. We could do a whole piece on that, couldn't we? Get some cloud spotters in. But yeah, if you've got any other ideas for what we could include on the Weather Studio, do send them in as well. As we said, we are building a new studio for our touchscreen. It will be ready in the next couple of weeks, so keep your eyes out for that. We are very excited about it, and we're able to do some new stuff on the Weather Studio as well. So any other ideas for what you'd like to talk about, please do send them in, and keep sending your questions in as well. But for now, thank you very much for watching.
See you next week.